Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another installment of Scott's Selections here for Monday, December 23rd. Before we get into today's play of the day, quick recap of what happened yesterday. We ended up picking up a loss with the Citadel and NC State over 166.5. Game wasn't really that close. It ended up going under by about 20 points. Line ended up closing at 167.5, so we did get some good value on it, but unfortunately it did not matter. Also hurt me personally as I had that parlayed with the Nuggets money line when they were still at a 7.5 underdog price before the LeBron James news was announced. And because of the Citadel, I ended up losing out on roughly an 11-unit parlay, so that's just unfortunate. But either or, we'll look to bounce back with a solid winner today. And so far, in the past couple of weeks, the NBA has been pretty kind to us. We're going to be going back to the well with the NBA. And we actually like a matchup that's taking place in the West Coast between the Houston Rockets and the Sacramento Kings. And this game, we actually like the total in the spot, and we like the over 230, which is available on FanDuel at minus 110. Now, the main reasons why we like this total here is based on the fact of a couple of reasons. One, the total originally opened up at 228. It's already up to 230. It has been bet up to 230 and a half in some spots. I expect this line to continue climbing. But if you've looked at how both these teams have played recently, I definitely think this game bodes well for the over. Sacramento's defense this season as a whole has been pretty good as they are giving up 107.9 points per game. However, it has been awful lately as it has given up 119 points in each of its last two games. And those were against the Pacers and the Grizzlies, two teams that don't exactly have the most prolific offenses. Houston's averaging 120.4 points per game. Based on how Sacramento's been playing lately defensively, I wouldn't be surprised to see them give up potentially 125 in this game, potentially even more, because giving up 119 in regulation in back-to-back games to the Pacers and the Grizzlies is not exactly a good sign moving forward when they have to face one of the best offenses in the entire league. Now, both those games were on the road, and Sacramento will be returning home, so potentially they could be playing better, but defensively, they've been a mess, and I think that's a bit concerning going into this game. Meanwhile, Houston's offense has been clicking as well, as they have scored at least 122 points in each of their last two games. And in addition to that, they've given up at least 117 points in each of their last two games. So I'm a bit concerned with how both teams have been playing defensively. Houston's been known to have one of the fastest paces in the entire NBA, as they're currently in the top 5. But giving up 117 points to the Clippers. Clippers are still a very solid team. I guess that makes sense. Giving up 125 to Phoenix. I guess that makes sense also because Phoenix's offense is pretty good. But, I mean, you've given up 117 points in each of your last two games. I'm a bit concerned with how both these teams have been playing defensively. And based on how the fact that both these teams combined to score 237 points in the first meeting this season, which culminated on a game-winning three-point buzzer beater by the Kings, if you remember that, I just think this game should probably end up going over. I think Houston could easily score 120 in this game, and I think Sacramento should be able to score at least 110. I think this game should be high scoring based on how both teams have been messes defensively, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Harden potentially go off for another 40 or so. Buddy Hield has struggled offensively, which could explain why Sacramento's offenses has struggled a bit over the last couple of games. I think he'll get back on track at home, and I think Sacramento and Houston should end up in a pretty high-scoring shootout, as both teams could honestly get into the 120s. So the play of the day on Monday, December 23rd, will be the over 230, which is available on FanDuel at minus 110, and that is a matchup between the Houston Rockets and the Sacramento Kings. Now, looking at the leans for the rest of today's card, I'll start out with the NFL. Minnesota is currently a 4.5-point favorite, and the total has been bet up from 46.5 to 47 or 47.5, depending on where you shop around, which I find very fascinating considering the fact that Dalvin Cook has been announced out for this game. Yet money has continued to pour in on Minnesota, and money's also coming on the over, which makes me believe that Dalvin Cook just simply isn't that important. And that's really the only way to look at it. I know from a fantasy perspective, he's been a very solid running back, but the fact that money has continued to pour in on Minnesota and the over with him out of the line, it makes me believe that he is kind of replaceable, and I expect Boone to do a pretty solid job out of the backfield getting his first start. Or Madison, if he is able to go. Madison's still questionable as he's been battling some injuries over the last couple of weeks, but Boone and Madison should do a pretty good job of filling the void, and I think that they should play pretty well. In terms of where I'm leaning for this game, though, I know it's kind of a square play, but I'd have to lean to Green Bay, as I just think that I just can't trust Kirk Cousins in this type of situation. I mentioned before how even though he's played pretty well, he struggled on Monday Night Football and Sunday Night Football. He's still winless on Monday Night Football. and that is something to keep in mind. I'll lean to Green Bay, and in terms of the total, I don't really have any thoughts on that, but I'll lean to Green Bay here. I just don't trust Cousins to win his first Monday night game and lay roughly 5 points, and that's a bit too much. So for me, I'll lean to Green Bay plus the points in that one. I'll probably sprinkle a bit on the money line, but that remains to be seen, especially since Minnesota needs to win this game in order to have a shot at winning the division, but they've already clinched a playoff spot since the Rams lost to the 49ers. So if this game does get a bit ugly early on and Green Bay takes an early lead, Minnesota, I don't want to say they're going to fold, but they know in the back of their mind that they could honestly just mail it in and take it to the playoffs. So that's something to keep in mind. But for me, I just think Green Bay with Rodgers, I just think 4.5 is too many points. So I'll lean to Green Bay on that one. Now talking about the NBA here on this one, just looking at the card here, what do I like? I'll lean to the Knicks -3. I know that they haven't played that well lately, but Washington's been an absolute mess, and New York has played okay at home. I know we ended up going against them as a play of the day on Saturday, but they were playing the Bucks on the second end of a back-to-back, so I'll give them a bit of a pass on that one. Washington's just been an absolute mess. I think the Knicks should come out and win this game. I'll lean to the Knicks on that one. Other than that, looking at the rest of the card, don't really have many other thoughts on the NBA. Yeah, I'm just not really a fan of anything on the card, so I'll personally skip that. Looking at the rest of the card, though, for college basketball, not really much else to talk about as well. I know I ended up doing an article on Siena and Canisius, but by the time I actually gave out the line, it was available at -5 for Siena. It's up to -7, so I don't think there's much value on that anymore, but that remains to be seen. I'll lean to San Francisco -2. Fresno State's been pretty underwhelming so far this season. They've been a bit of an underachieving team. San Francisco, even though they lost to Stanford and they've lost a couple of games here or there, still a solid basketball team, and I think that 2 is a bit of a small spread, especially considering the fact that Fresno State opened up as a 1-point favorite. They've currently been bet down to roughly +2. I think San Francisco is probably the right side on that one. Lean to the Dons on that one. But play today, once again, will be the over 230 between the Rockets and the Kings, and that is available at -110 on FanDuel. Other than that, though, that's going to be this installment of Scott Selections here for Monday, December 23rd. Good luck to all of you and your respective bets today. Bye, everyone.